No. No! This can't be! Dear future me, you know as well as I do that we have a problem with watching Halloween movies outside of October, thus ruining the anticipation for the best month of the year. In preparation for this, I have locked all of our Tim Burton movies in this binder. The lock will open October 1st. If you're trying to open it, I estimate it's around August. April. It's April. The only Tim Burton movie not in the box is Big Fish and its musical adaptation, because as the heartwarming tale of a son trying to find the truth behind his dying father's tall tales, it's more charming Americana than creepy. So you can watch that, if you want. I'm sorry to do this to you, future me, but I can't let us ruin Halloween again. Look, I just want to watch Sweeney Todd! I'm the Broadway Neophyte, and this is Big Fish the Musical. We open with Edward Bloom telling his young son Will the story of how he tried to catch the biggest catfish in Alabama, which was big enough to eat a whole group of people before they escaped by doing the Alabama Stomp.
I know it sounds strange, but this is the only way to get out of a fish. Now watch me.
Son, throughout your life, people will try to tell you that breaking into a tab number isn't the solution to your problems. These people are wrong, son. Remember that. Dad out. Skip forward to Will's wedding day, where he's afraid that his father will steal the spotlight by telling one of his tall tales, which in fiction land is the way to ensure he does exactly that. Impressively, Will and Edward are both made into likable and sympathetic characters, just with very different worldviews. Edward is friendly and full of jokes and stories, while Will is more uptight, awkward, and afraid that he won't know how to be a good father himself in the future. Edward is diagnosed with cancer, but insists he won't die of it because a witch showed him his death when he was a teenager. In a flashback, we see the witch, who has this very cool Mothman aesthetic going on, show Edward all the people he'll be surrounded by when he dies. Both Will's mom Sandra and his wife Josephine are entertained by Edward's stories, but Will is unconvinced and says the witch was only a fortune teller. We flash back to Edward's high school years, where he volunteers to chase a giant out of his hometown of Ashton because he knows he won't die that way. He realizes that much like himself, Carl the Giant is lonely and miserable because he's trapped in a town too small for the big life he wants. They both leave Ashton in search of adventure, Edward promising his girlfriend Jenny that he'll come back. Carl and Edward go to the circus, where Carl gets a job and Edward sees a girl he falls in love with at first sight, who we know as his wife Sandra in modern day.
Time stops when suddenly you see her. Time stops and what you thought you knew changes. Life beyond this moment is better, bigger.
Sandra leaves before they can talk, but the circus ringmaster is friends with her dad, so Edward agrees to work for the circus for free in exchange for one fact about her each month.
They'll learn what perfume she wears, or what she says in her prayers,
and be much closer than I ever was.
So Edward realizes that the ringmaster could totally just be making these up to take advantage of the free employee, right? I mean, how much does this guy really know about his friend's daughter? Can Edward not just, I don't know, find someone who can introduce him to Sandra? Surely he can in 3 years, which is how long he works for free at the circus until the ringmaster tells him where she's going to college. So Edward goes there and explains how he's pretty much been indirectly stalking Sandra for 3 years.
You don't know me, but my name is Edward Bloom, and I'm in love with you.
Only to find that she's already engaged. Luckily, she thinks he's super romantic, there are no restraining orders in whimsical 20th century America, and she changes her mind about her fiancé after he tries to beat up Edward. Edward even buys Sandra a whole field of daffodils. Aww. With the money he doesn't have, because he's been working for no pay the last 3 years. Edward and Sandra get married, and after some time serving in the military in a vaguely defined foreign country, Edward takes a job as a traveling salesman, leaving him without much time to spend with his son, Will. Back in the present-day timeline, Will finds financial records of his father paying for a house for a mysterious woman named Jenny, and suspects he might have cheated on Sandra.
Maybe she's a friend.
Maybe she's more than that. My father was a traveling salesman. He easily could have had a second life.
As it turns out, some time ago, Edward went back to save his hometown from flooding, with financial help from Carl the Giant and the circus ringmaster, who he inspired to become successful. I can only assume he did this by helping them realize how easy it is to cheat free labor out of people. 3 years. Edward bought a new house for Jenny, who was his high school girlfriend, but had second thoughts about moving in with her because he could never be unfaithful to Sandra. He felt so guilty that he even considered abandoning his family that he never told this story to anyone. Will realizes that his father was a hero to lots of people, and his exaggerated stories were meant to be inspiring. Near the end of his life, Edward asks Will to tell him a story so he doesn't have to die in a hospital.
First things first. We're in this prison cell. We have to find a way to break out. Find another place to stake out. Look around. Be sure we aren't seen.
In Will's story, Edward escapes the hospital and gets to say goodbye to all his friends, before walking into the river as in the witch's prophecy, dying with the knowledge that his son has inherited his talent for storytelling. The show ends with Will meeting characters who are seemingly the grains of truth in Edward's stories at the funeral, and passing on the stories to his own son, Finn. Get it? Like a fish. Most of the songs in Big Fish aren't that memorable out of context, but to their credit, they serve the plot very well. No song seems like it comes out of nowhere, or like it's just an excuse to show off dancing or cool effects. By that standard, the best is probably The River Between Us, which sets up the conflict between Edward wanting to inspire his son with heroic tall tales, and Will being frustrated with his dad lying about everything and seemingly keeping his real past a secret.
He only sees what he invents. He only sees the black and white. All make believe and all pretend. And always wants to start a fight. Doesn't change, he doesn't stay. And so the river winds his way.
There's also Bigger, a fun, catchy song in which Edward explains his desire to escape from his small town and experience more of the world.
A bigger person needs a bigger world, a bigger yard to play in. If you hit the ceiling, then I'll tell you, son, it's the dump that you stay in. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Also, Carl dances on stilts, which is pretty impressive. Big Fish is a story that adapts very well to the stage. Some things from the movie are taken out, like the poet-turned-bank robber character played by Steve Buscemi, or the conjoined twins from the vaguely defined Foreign Country, probably because conjoined twins would have been hard to do on stage. It would have been hard to do on stage. But big musical numbers go perfectly with Edward's overactive imagination, such as his military stories being interspersed with patriotic backup dancers like you'd see in wartime propaganda, or when Will confronts him about Jenny's house and it's represented as an Old West hanging trial. The creators managed to change some details to fit better in the stage musical format, while preserving the main plot about Will learning to relate to his father. I'm the Broadway Neophyte, so long and thanks for all the fish.